Hello guys, this is another review video on identifying the components of a vector. Di na natin i-discuss siya ng details kasi review na nga lang ito. Okay, but then as a recall, we have components of a vector, the parts of a vector. We have the x component and the y component. Pag sinabi natin x component, we also referring to the horizontal component or the component along the x-axis. And for y component, it's the vertical component or the component along the y-axis. Okay? See, for example, we have here vector A equal to 25 meter per second, 35 degrees north of east. As you can see, this is north of east, this is north attached to east, or north from east. Okay, we can draw our vector or components. Okay, so here we have here oops, ayun, we have here the x component, so up to the tip. Okay, that's your x component, and then we have the y component, of course. So from here there's your y component. Okay, with that we can label our given. Okay, so yung vector mo, yung blue arrow, okay, that's your A. Let's name it A. And of course, this is your A sub x, and this is your A sub y. Okay, with that, makikita nyo na this is your given theta equal to 35 degrees. So, makikita nyo na adjacent si x component, si y component, opposite side. So, sa trigonometric function, for the adjacent side, we'll be using the cosine of theta. Okay, so for the x component, which is our a sub x, let's use the cosine of theta. Cosine theta is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Okay, so that will be your, okay, so that is the cosine of theta equal to a sub x all over a. So for us to get the formula for a sub x will be equal to a. Okay, that's your a multiplied by cosine theta. Okay, for our y component, that is the opposite side of the angle, so we'll be using the sine of theta. Sine of theta is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Substitute natin, that is the sine of theta equal to, our opposite side is the a sub y, and then hypotenuse is a. By cross multiplication, we'll have a sub y is equal to your a sine of theta. Okay, so we'll be using these formulas. Okay, so let's try. Substitute natin yung value for our a sub x. We'll have here the value of a, which is 25 meter per second, multiplied by the cosine of, okay, that is the cosine of 35. Cosine 35 degrees. Input sa calculator para ma-check din. So that will be 20.48 meter per second towards east. Okay, so this is also a vector, so you have to indicate its direction. Okay, so for our a sub y, we have a sub y is equal to our a, which is 25 meter per second, multiplied by sine of 35 degrees. Okay, input sa calculator, that will be equal to 14.34 degrees. 14.34, I mean not degrees but meter per second. Okay, and the direction is towards north. Okay, so you can see yung direction na mismo yung magbibigay sa'yo ng components, north, and east. One going east and the other is going north. So that's it. Let's have several example after this one. Question, lagi ba siyang cosine theta for the x component and sine theta for the y component? Hindi siya palagi, pero pwede namang gawa ng paraan. I mean, like, you can use other angles. Anyway, we have several way of presenting the direction of the vector. Okay, so later on tingnan natin. Gagamitin mo lang yung cosine theta kung with your illustration, adjacent naman si x component. O kaya, ang ginamit mo is yung true angle from positive x-axis counterclockwise direction. So, pwede na yun, diretso. Okay? Pero kung ang gagamitin mo yung acute angle and then given yung direction and ma-observe mo na hindi naman adjacent si x component, then you should be using the sine for that, or the sine theta, or you can also like get the complementary angle of that. Okay, we'll have another example for that. Okay, let's try this. Find the components of the following vectors. Ay, mabilis lang. Components. So, number 1, given ay north. Okay, so 8 meter north. Pwede naman na. Okay, for number 1, for your, sige, let's just name it as vector B, C, D, E, and F. Okay. Ayun, may maingay na manok. Okay, so B. For our B sub x, we have here, of course, your B cosine of theta. Okay. If we will illustrate that, this is your vector. Obviously, wala na siyang x component para solve natin. That is your 8 kilometer and cosine of, remember yung reference angle natin pag north, 90. Cosine 90 is 0, so we'll have b sub x equal to 0. So, wala tayong x component. And your b sub y will be b sine of theta. Okay? And your theta is still, so that's 8 kilometer sine of 90. And sine of 90 is 1. So, we'll have here 8 kilometer. Okay, and the direction is towards north. So, that's your b sub y. So, ayun siya. Then, number 2. Ito agad. Okay, kapag ka naman east yung given muna, obviously, wala ka namang y component. You can immediately give the x component. Okay, pag east or west lang siya. Okay, yan. Pwede rin naman na mag-refer ka pa, cosine 0 or cosine or sine 0. Okay, or mag-compute ka pa. Next, for number 2, illustrate natin siya. That's a south of west. So, if we have here our Cartesian plane, south of west can be found on the third quadrant. Okay, so, here, attached to the west. So, we can draw now our components. So, this is your theta, given theta. Okay, with that, we have here our C, and then this is our C sub X, and our C sub Y. As you can see, yung C sub X naman natin ay adjacent side. So, we can use C sub X is equal to C cosine of theta. So, the value of C is 20 meter per second. Cosine of that is 35 degrees. Okay? That will be equal to, compute natin, 20 cosine of 35, 16.38. 16.38 meter per second. And the direction will be west. Okay? Bakit siya west? Ito rin yung components nun. Okay? So, next, we have here our c sub y equal to c, okay, sine of theta. That will be 20 meter per second multiplied by sine of 35. So, that will be equal to 11.47. 11.47 meter per second, and the direction is south. Okay, c sub y. You can use that. We also have another method if gusto niyo naman na gawa kayo na ulit ng Cartesian plane. Tapos, diba, this is your 35 degrees. Okay, you can start with your positive x-axis, then move counterclockwise. So, that will be 180 degrees, nasa taas ng quadrants, plus 35 degrees. And that will be equal to how much? 215. 215 degrees. Kapag 215 na, okay, pwede namang yun yung gamitin. Okay, try natin. C sub x is equal to C cosine of 215. Your C will be the same value, 20 meter per second. Okay. Multiplied by cosine 215 degrees. That will be 20 cosine of 215. The answer is negative 16.38. Of course, that's a meter per second. And this negative is our direction, okay? Of course, it's on the x component, so yung negative doon, yung west. So, that will be 16.38 meter per second west. Okay? So, pwedeng ganito, pwede rin to. Let's see, so c sub y equal to c sine of 215. Okay, that's 20 meter per second sine of 215. And that will give you c sub y negative 11.47 meter per second. So it's still a negative, and that negative is the direction. So that's 11.47 meter per second towards south. So, any of this method, pwede nyo namang gamitin. Okay? Dito lang, ginamit natin yung acute angle. Okay? 35 degrees. Yung original given. So, that is 35 degrees. That is south of west. Okay, south of west. Here naman, ginamit natin ay 200 degree, 215 degrees, 215 degrees from positive x-axis counterclockwise direction. Okay, so we just arrive at the same answer. Kung anong saan kayo madalian, then it's fine. Okay, so for number 3, solve natin yung number 3. Copy natin muna si number 3. Okay. Dito na tayo mag-solve sa gilid. For number 3, we have here 45 meter per second, 15 degrees north of, west of north. So, kung titingnan nyo, illustrate muna natin siya. It's west of north, so nasa second quadrant. So, west of north. Okay. that's attached to north. Okay, so we have here, so ganyan siya, 15 degrees. Okay. So, kung illustrate natin yung components niya, nandito. Oops. So, let's name this as vector D. Okay, this is your D sub x and this is your D sub y. But then, if you will observe D sub x and then D sub y. Kung observe mo, hindi na ngayon, ito yung given theta, hindi na adjacent side si D sub x. Siya na yung opposite side. Okay? So, dito pwedeng dalawang method. Okay? Pwedeng iba-ibang method. Okay, so simulan natin na dahil opposite side siya, we can solve that using d sub x is equal to d sine of theta. Okay? And your d sub y will be the cosine theta. D sub y is equal to d cosine of theta. Kasi nga, ito yung opposite side. So, that will be 45 meter per second multiplied by sine of 15. That will be 45 sine of 15, 11.65. 11.65 meter per second. Okay? And that is towards west. Okay. And then for your d sub y, that is 45 meter per second cosine of 15. Let's have the cosine of 15. That's 43.47. 43.47 meter per second towards north. Again, okay. Pwede rin naman na kunin natin. So, ito yung first method. Pangalawang method, pwede naman na kunin natin yung magiging, okay, here. Ayan siya. Ito yung vector natin. Okay. And this is 15 degrees west of north. Tama? So, ito yung 15 degrees. Ito yung north eh. Okay? With that, we can get the value of this. Okay? Okay, if this is 15, ano yung magiging value nito? So that we'll have here the D, and then this is your D sub X. And then this is your D sub Y. But here, ang gagamitin mo, of course, yung complementary angle ng 15. So that is 90 minus 15. So that is your 75 degrees. Okay? Kapag 75 degrees yung ginamit natin, mapapansin nyo na si D sub X adjacent na. So, pwede na natin gamitin yung cosine. Okay? So, we can have here the D sub X is equal to your D cosine of 75 degrees. Again, si 75 degrees na. So, that will be 45 meter per second multiplied by cosine 75 degrees. Compute natin 45 cosine 75. That is still 11.65 meter per second towards west. Di naman nagbago yung direction niya. Okay? D sub X. For our D sub Y, you can have here the D sine of 75. Okay? So, meron kayo naman dito ngayong 45 meter per second sine of 75. Okay. What will be the value of that? Compute sa calculator para ma-check nyo din 75. That's still 43.47. 43.47 meter per second towards north. Okay, that is your D sub y. Again, using this method wherein we use the complementary angle. Kuha po ba? So, yan. May isa pang method. Gagayahin natin yung method na ginawa natin. We can add na yung 15 degrees natin magiging galing sa positive x-axis. Pag galing naman siya sa positive x-axis, try natin. Draw ulit tayo ng small Cartesian plane. Tapos, yung vector natin, di ba ito siya? Kasi west of north. Okay. So, pwede tayo dito. Mula dito, sa positive x-axis, pupunta doon. So, if we start sa positive x-axis, that will be 90 degrees plus 15 degrees. Diba? Kasi doon tayo nag-start. And that will be equal to how much? 105. Tama? Okay. So, let's try to solve this. Ngayon naman, gamitin natin si 105. If yan naman yung gagamitin natin, yung true angle, we'll stick with the cosine theta. We'll have the d sub x is equal to your d cosine of 105 degrees. So, that will be 45 meter per second cosine of 105 degrees. Try sa calculator. 45 cosine of 105. Okay? So, pag ito yung ginamit, lalabas ng sagot ay negative 11.65 meter per second. And that negative is the direction of your x component. So, that will be 11.65 meter per second towards west. Kasi si west yung negative sa x component. Okay, so it's the same. So let's have the d sub y. For our d sub y, we'll be using the d sine of 105 degrees equal to 45 meter per second sine of 105 degrees. So that will give you 45 sine of, try nyo rin sa calculator. Okay, the answer will be 43.47. Okay, that is d sub y. Of course, it's meter per second. And because that is positive, sa y component, the positive is north. So, the direction will be north. 47 meter per second north. Ayan, nakuha. So, tatlong method will still give you the same answer. Ito rin siya. Pwede rin na ganito. Kinuha natin yung complementary angle niya. Pwede naman ito. Nakinuha na. We started from positive x-axis. X-axis. Of course, counterclockwise. Okay, so C, you will be arriving with the same method. Okay, so for the next one, ayan, sorry, medyo magalaw. Try natin si number 4. Ayan, yung number 4, yung parang ginagawa lang din natin dun sa isa pang method. Okay, for number 4, we have here 125, okay, meter per kilometer. So, illustrate natin siya. Oops. Okay, you have your Cartesian plane. 199 degrees. That's on the third quadrant kasi 180 degrees itong towards west. So, approximately, andito siya. Ito yan. Tama. So, there. Okay? With that, your angle will be drawn from positive x-axis. Yun naman yung convention natin. Okay. From positive x-axis. Kasi diba nandito yung 0 degrees na. So, ito siya. Okay? So, yan. Madali lang. You can use. Okay. Kapag ganito yung given, pwede nyo sundan yung method na ginawa natin dun sa number 3. Or pwede naman na direct na. You just use 199 degrees. Okay? So, this will be our vector E. So, for us to find E sub x, that is E cosine of theta. And then, for your E sub y, we have E sine of theta. So, this E is 125 kilometer multiplied by your cosine 199 degrees. So, that will be 125 cosine 199. That's a negative 118.19 kilometers. Again, that's negative, so that will be 118.19 kilometer towards west. As you can see naman sa illustration natin, towards west yung kanyang component. Okay? So, for the E sub y, ang ingay ng mga manok, kilometer, that is sine of 199 degrees. Okay? So, that will be the sine of 199. 40.70. Try nyo rin sa calculator. 40.70 kilometer. Oh, that's a negative 40.70. Okay, so that negative represents the direction. So that's 40.70 kilometer towards south. Okay, another method, pwede rin naman na, so you have your 199 degrees. You can subtract that, you can subtract 180 from that. You'll be getting 19 degrees. And then, yung 19 degrees na yon, ito yung ano natin. Ito yung Cartesian plane. So, yung 19 degrees is ito yon. Yun pa rin naman yung magiging illustration. It's just that, hindi siya manggagaling sa positive x. So, ito na yung magiging triangle. Okay, this is your E. This is your E sub x. This is your E sub y. Okay, tingnan natin kung same yung lalabas. Okay, E sub x is equal to E cosine of 19 degrees. So, 19 degrees na yung gagamitin natin kasi nag-subtract na tayo. So, that will be your 125 kilometer. Okay, 125 cosine of 19. Okay, cosine 19. Okay, try sa calculator. Lalabas ni sagot ay positive 118.19 kilometer. Dahil ang ginamit natin, acute angle, so positive yung lumabas na answer, you will refer to your illustration. Okay? Kasi yung 19 degrees mo na yan, magiging ito yan. Ang direction ngayon ng 19 degrees mo is south of west. Okay? South of west siya, so ito na yung magiging components mo. So, that's west. Okay? For your E sub y, so that will be your E sine of 19 degrees. That is 125 kilometer multiplied by sine of 19. Okay? So, the answer is positive ulit. Okay. So, that will be 40.70 kilometer. Positive yung, though positive yung answer, so you refer to the components of 19 degrees, that is south. Okay, so east, south, west. See, kahit ano method, pwede. Okay, so pwedeng ito, pwedeng ito. Oops. Hawa po. Okay, so last. Okay, kapag may angle, ito yung napansin kong karamihan na mali yung pagkakasulat. Halimbawa, ang given, the given is, okay, given ay 175 degrees. Okay, theta equal to 175 degrees. Pag nag-illustrate, nakaganito lang siya. Tapos, nilalagay dyan is components. Ito lang daw yung 175. No. Okay, hindi ganyan lang yung 175. You start with your positive x-axis. Ito yung angle. Okay, that's 175. Obviously, hindi naman yun. Okay, kung 175, so, ayun nga, pwede na ito 175 degrees given siya. Pwede naman na express din natin siya as, okay, so for example, that's your vector, 175 degrees. Lagay natin ang kanyang illustration. So, sabihin natin na ito. Kung ano naman binigay na magnitude. So, again, your copy. Okay. Your vector here, your angle here will be coming from the positive x-axis. So, ito siya. Okay. You can name that. The direction can be 175 degrees. Okay. Or, you can have here, kung ito naman yung ibibigay mo, okay. So, halimbawa, mula dito, papunta doon. So, ayan, less than 175 na yan. So, that will be your 175 minus 90 degrees. Ito yung hindi included. 175 minus 90 degrees. So, that will be your 85 degrees. And then, yung 85 degrees na yan, sulat mo yung direction. That will be, of course, that is from north. Okay, so that is your west of north. Pwede rin naman na itong 175, okay, ito siya. Ito lang naman kasi talaga yan. Okay, pwede naman na-express mo rin yung vector niya dito sa ilalim. Okay, yun pa rin yung location nung angle. Okay? So, ngayon, meron ka naman dito na ang reference mo naman dito si 180. So, that will be 180 degrees minus, okay, minus 175 degrees. And that will be equal to, of course, 5. Okay? 5 degrees. You have to give also yung direction of 5 degrees. That is from west. Okay, so that will be north of west. Okay? So, ito, siya si 175 degrees. So, pwede yan, mga directions, or that's how you express the direction of vector. So, any of that is accepted. Okay? So, next video is about components.